very carefully in order not to shatter the tenuous visions against the harsh light of consciousness. She put as much store in that process as others put in numbers, and she so refined the art of remembering that she could see Miss Rose bent over the crate of Marseille soap that was her first cradle. "You cannot possibly remember that, Eliza. Newborns are like cats. They have no emotions and no memory," Miss Rose insisted the few times the subject arose. Possible or not, that woman peering down at her, her topaz-colored dress, the loose strands from her bun stirring in the breeze, were engraved in Eliza's mind, and she could never accept the other explanation of her origins. "You have English blood, like us," Miss Rose assured Eliza when she was old enough to understand. "Only someone from the British colony would have thought to leave you in a basket on the doorstep of the British Import and Export Company Limited. I am sure they knew how good-hearted my brother Jeremy is, and felt sure he would take you in. In those days I was longing to have a child, and you fell into my arms, sent by God to be brought up in the solid principles of the Protestant faith and the English language." "You, English? Don't get any ideas, child. You have Indian hair, like mine," Mamma Frisia rebutted behind her patrona's back. But Eliza's birth was a forbidden subject in that house, and the child grew accustomed to the mystery. It, along with other delicate matters, was never mentioned between Rose and Jeremy Sommers, but it was aired in whispers in the kitchen with Mamma Frisia, who never wavered in her description of the soap crate, while Miss Rose's version was, with the years, embroidered into a fairy tale. According to her, the basket they had found at the office door was woven of the finest wicker and lined in batiste. Eliza's nightgown was worked with French knots and the sheets edged with Brussels lace. And topping everything was a mink coverlet, an extravagance never seen in Chile. Over time, other details were added. 6 gold coins tied up in a silk handkerchief, and a note in English explaining that the baby, though illegitimate, was of good stock, although Eliza never set eyes on any of that. The mink, the coins, and the note conveniently disappeared, erasing any trace of her birth. Closer to Eliza's memories was Mamma Frisia's explanation. When she opened the door one morning at the end of summer, she had found a naked baby girl in a crate. "No mink coverlet, no gold coins. I was there, and I remember very well. You were shivering and bundled up in a man's sweater. They hadn't even put a diaper on you, and you were covered with your own caca. Your nose was running, and you were red as a boiled lobster, with a head full of fuzz like corn silk. That's how it was. Don't get any ideas," she repeated stoutly. "You weren't born to be a princess, and if your hair had been as black as it is now, Miss Rose and her brother would have tossed the crate in the trash." At least everyone agreed that the baby came into their lives on March 15, 1832, a year and a half after the Sommers arrived in Chile, and they adopted that date as her birthday. Everything else was always a tangle of contradictions, and Eliza decided finally that it wasn't worth the effort to keep going over it, because whatever the truth was, she could do nothing to change it. "What matters is what you do in this world, not how you come into it," she used to say to Dao Qian during the many years of their splendid friendship. He, however, did not agree. It was impossible for him to imagine his own life apart from the long chain of his ancestors, who not only had given him his physical and mental characteristics, but bequeathed him his karma. His fate, he believed, had been determined by the acts of his family before him, which was why he had to honor them with daily prayers and fear them when they appeared in their spectral robes to claim their due. Dao Qian could recite the names of all his ancestors, back to the most remote and venerable great-great-grandparents, dead now for more than a century. His primary concern during the gold madness was to go home in time to die in his village in China and be buried beside his ancestors. If not, his soul would forever wander aimlessly in a foreign land. Eliza naturally was drawn to the story of the exquisite basket. No one in her right mind would want to have begun life in a common soap crate. But out of respect for the truth, she could not accept it. Her bloodhound nose remembered very